very honored now to begin our afternoon sessions with a fireside chat with King Faisal Prize laureates titled Interviewing Brilliance, Lessons from King Faisal Prize laureates. This is a very distinguished and prominent session that we're very proud of. The laureates of the King Faisal Prize stand among the world's most influential minds, recognized for their enduring contributions to science, knowledge, and human progress. Since its inception in 1979, the prize has been awarded to 275 laureates from 43 different countries, with 24 recipients in science and medicine later receiving the Nobel Prize, underscoring its global stature and lasting impact. This fireside chat really brings us closer to the lived experiences of the excellence behind this, exploring how brilliance develops, matures, and translates into global impact. We are honored to welcome Professor Nader Masmoudi. He's a professor of mathematics at New York University, internationally recognized for his contributions to mathematical sciences. He received the King Faisal Prize in Science in 2021 in recognition of his fundamental and influential contributions to the theory of partial differential equations. We're very honored to have you with us and joining us. Thank you. Please welcome to the stage. We are also, Professor Jackie is running a little bit late, so we will welcome again Professor Rena Subotnik, who has had a wonderful keynote speech this morning, who is a research associate at the Academic Talent Development Program, University of California, Berkeley. Hopefully we'll be joined as well with Professor Jackie Ru Ying. She is the Chief Innovation and Research Officer at King Faisal Specialist Hospital and Research Center. She received her King Faisal Prize in Science and Nanotechnology in 2023, really pioneering contributions to nanostructured materials. We're honored to have you with us today. Welcome, and we look forward to your wonderful session.
Okay, good morning, or good afternoon, rather. I'm here with Dr. Masmoudi, and I've sent him and Dr. Ying 4 questions. So I'm excited to hear what they have to say. We don't often get to speak intensively with someone who's already successful, because we're bringing people forward and hoping they will end up in this place. So what were some key experiences in your pre-university life that started you on the trajectory of becoming a fluid mechanics expert in mathematics?
Okay, so first I want to thank the organizers for inviting me. It's really a pleasure to be here with you. So now, going to your question, I was raised in a family that gave a lot of importance to education. So both my parents were teachers. So my father was physics teacher, my mother was English teacher, and so they valued education. And I think they saw in me someone who liked mathematics from early age, so they definitely encouraged me. And then I went to a gifted school in Tunisia at that time, and I was able to participate in many math competitions, so some math competition in France, and then I was also selected for the International Math Olympiad, so I participated in the Math Olympiad twice. And then I went to France to study mathematics. I really liked mathematics at that time, and at the same time, I also liked physics. So I had both. I mean, I liked also understanding things, being curious about how things work, how we understand movements, how we understand. So then immediately I found myself doing studies in mathematics and then specializing in partial differential equations. So usually partial differential equation, they study different physical phenomena. And then I find myself like with different like professors advising me about what to do. So I was really broad in terms of what I was ready to do. So I didn't have really this, I wanted to do only one thing. So I liked to explore. So I tried to explore, like when I was undergrad, I explored a lot of things. And from advices from several professors, I found myself working in fluid equations. So that's how I started really doing a PhD in studying asymptotic problems in fluid equations. And then I continued my research in that area.
Before this session, we were chatting, and we were talking about students choosing to go into research fields like yours. And you mentioned that there's kind of, you need parental support because otherwise you're kind of guided into the professions, you know, engineering or medicine. So do you want to speak to that?
Yeah. So, I mean, in my case, I was very, I was very happy that my parents encouraged me in doing what I wanted. It happened, I mean, this is a fact that happened to me like during the years I was in New York. I was encountering many students, a lot of them coming from this region, and discussing, many times it happened to me to see students who were really very talented in mathematics, and they came to me just to express how they loved mathematics, but somehow their families made them do medicine or engineering. And I found that, okay, I mean, I think we have to change this kind of mentality that it's not because someone is very gifted that he should be doing engineering or being a very successful doctor. Like, we should also value research and applied or fundamental, both. So, I mean, when someone follows what he likes, like if you like something, definitely your chances of being successful will be much higher.
Thank you. I'm taking advantage and I'm going to ask another question about that. You mentioned the Olympiads, the math Olympiads. Now, some people argue that that's not real math in the sense of you're given a question, you have 3 hours to answer it, and so I've heard the argument it's not good preparation for what a mathematician does, but it helped you.
For me, it definitely helped me a lot. For me, it really helped me a lot, even though it's true that now if you give me this Math Olympiad question, I will not be able to do them because I forgot the techniques. I should say, let me put a parenthesis, like these days, I've been trying actually to go back to this Math Olympiad more from a different side, from a different point of view, which is training trainers. I know like here in Saudi, they are also very putting a lot of effort in this, and I've been also working with a number of Saudi in this initiative, which is trying to train Arab trainers for the Math Olympiad. So we are doing online sessions. So I'm not the one doing them, but I'm trying to facilitating this, getting trainer to train trainers here. Now, going back to the Math Olympiad question, and Olympiad in general, I really enjoyed the Math Olympiad preparation, I would say. And I insist a lot on the idea of preparation more than participation, because like the preparation can be done for a broad, very broad, like any country can try to prepare thousands of students for the Math Olympiad. Of course, at the end, there are only 6 who go and participate, but I saw like even like friends who did the preparation, they were really able to succeed in their mathematical studies later. Even though the Math Olympiad questions are not through the research, like Math Olympiad and research are 2 different things, but doing the Math Olympiad prepare you to thinking fast, thinking out of the box, trying to get new ideas for innovation. So I still think it's an excellent preparation.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, now the second question that I sent in advance to our speakers. Did your most creative ideas arise from deep study in your special area of expertise or your explorations into other domains of knowledge? What are your thoughts about the place for general versus specialized education and training in your field?
Yeah, so my area of research is mathematical analysis of fluid equations. So my emphasis is on the math, really. Like, so it's math questions. So the math is, I am in the math community, so when I go to talks or I go to conferences, I will be going to conferences in math conferences, talks. The language I speak is mathematical language, so I can understand people who are doing mathematical equation in general relativity or mathematical equation in plasma physics more than maybe those who are doing physics, right? However, I would say that having a good knowledge of physics is very helpful. So when you are doing research in an area, you should be definitely focusing on your area. You should have a very deep knowledge in your area, but having this broader knowledge about what's happening in neighboring areas can be really very helpful. And that helped me. Like recently there are ideas that came in my research that were in a sense influenced by knowledge in physics. So this point is very important. Like whenever one wants to do deep research, knowing neighboring fields can be very helpful. Another thing that I've been now recently interested in is to try to apply these ideas to apply them to other areas. So now I'm also interested in traffic flow, crowd dynamic. So I'm trying to see how these advances that happened recently in fluids. So recently we have a lot of breakthrough in understanding stability of fluid flows. So I'm trying now to see whether one can apply them to traffic flow, crowd dynamic. So we'll see how that goes.
See, you're wandering into psychology too, with traffic flow and...
Yeah.
That's great. Okay. Is there anything you wish you had known about developing your talent that might have prevented a setback, a failure, or a simple waste of time? Can you share that information with the audience so they can benefit from this insider knowledge?
Yeah, so going back to this idea of a broader knowledge. It's true that when I was younger, like when I was really starting research, I didn't necessarily have that mentality that one should have this broader knowledge enough, I guess. So when now I think about my career, I say, okay, maybe at some point when I thought that I'm going to work in fluid equation, maybe I should have tried to take a graduate class in fluid dynamic, like in physics, like go in physics, take a graduate class in physics. That would have been beneficial. And another advice I will always give now, now I give it to younger students, that I knew about it, but maybe didn't apply it all the time, is a general advice in research. Like whenever you are trying to work on a research question, you try to take a question, like a difficult question, let's say. It's you want to to work on an interesting problem, but one should always try to first simplify the question first, like look at simpler cases, particular examples, toy models that can maybe help you attack the real question. So never try spend months or years working on a very difficult question before trying to look at simplified version of it, particular cases. So in mathematics, like many of the equations we have are nonlinear, so maybe one should first try to look at the linear problem, what happened to the linear problem. Many of these problems are written in very high dimension. What happens if you look at your problem in 2 dimensions, in 1 dimension? Simplifying the problem many times is very helpful. First, and also separating difficulties. So many times you have a math question where there are different problems happening together. And if you have many difficulties happening together, many times you are not able to understand what each difficulty is doing. So many times one should try to separate the difficulties, because then you can understand them separately. Mm-hmm. So simplify the problem, try to understand difficulties separately. This is always very helpful, I find, in research in general.
Since we have a little extra time, I'm going to ask you, in a study of American Nobel laureates, Harriet Zuckerman found that Nobel laureates who mentored other Nobel laureates, their task was to teach what is an elegant problem. What is the aesthetic of a juicy problem for you?
So juicy problem will be, I would say, of 2 types. And here I want to value two important things in research, like fundamental research and applied research. It's true that nowadays we are insisting more on applied research. We are insisting on impact. How does this research can help us in our daily life? So for me now, juicy can have 2 kinds of juice, let's say. So something fundamental, like one can try to attack important fundamental questions. So there are a number of fundamental questions in fluid mechanics, for instance, that have been open. We understand some of them now better, but there are still deep open problems. I can go a little bit in detail, but like all these equations that we have for fluids, like mathematically, we still don't even understand why solutions are global. Like maybe this solution will encounter some singularities, and understanding these singularities in fluid equations is still a big open problem in mathematics. So that's like a very juicy problem. So there are also problems related to boundary layers. boundary layers is what happens close to the, for instance, the wing of an airplane. So understanding flows close to the wing of an airplane, mathematically, like we still don't understand them 100%, even though now we have airplanes flying. So from the engineer point of view, we know how to function airplanes, but understanding deeply how the solution behave close to these wings is still not very well understood. So this is more like from the fundamental side. But then the applied side is also very important, I would say. And as I told you, like nowadays I've been really interested in applying these things to traffic flow, crowd dynamic. So one of the important problem I'm really interested in is understanding things related to tawaf in Mecca, like when people are going around, how can we make this movement better? Is there ways of improving this? Also for Hajj, I mean, there are many interesting mathematical questions that I'm trying to work on them. So that's more like from the applied point of view.
Is this something that you're doing on your own, or is it something that is sponsored? Or are people asking that question?
I mean, both. So I'm interested myself by it, and I'm trying to collaborate with some people. I mean, starting from Al-Qura University, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it's pretty profound. So what was the major drive that led to your creative work, that leads to your creative work, even in the face of pushback from others? And have you had pushback?
Yeah, so, I mean, the research field in general is, in general, is a nice community, I find, like in mathematics. I mean, but of course, I mean, it depends. It depends. Like sometimes you go into areas where you see a lot of competition. I really, and this is something I value a lot, that we should, as researchers, we should have like this big picture, I would say, like that, okay, what's our goal? Our goal is maybe to advance our field, but not have in mind that there is really competition, that I should be doing better than the other group, try to collaborate more. I learned that collaboration that's how I enjoy doing research rather than competition. So, I mean, if I see someone working on something close to what I'm doing, the first thing that comes to my mind is maybe to collaborate rather than think that, oh, I need to do it before that guy. Or so I find that kind of attitude of collaboration instead of competition, I find it much better in research. And nowadays we see a lot of this kind of, especially with the internet. Even recently there were some math questions that was solved by a collaborative group, like so each one was putting ideas. But at the end, maybe a large group of people collaborated on one particular proof. So I really, maybe at the younger, when I was young, I was maybe more like of this competitive kind of way of thinking, okay, I have to do this fast, I have to. But I found that at the end, that's not really the best way of behaving, because, okay, it makes things sometimes less enjoyable. So nowadays I enjoy a lot collaborating, exchanging ideas. I find that much more enjoyable than having this kind of competitive attitude.
We're going to take questions from the audience, but I want to ask you one more thing. But what about if somebody says you're wrong?
I mean,
Oh, okay.
Okay. I mean, it happens. I mean, one should accept that, like it happens. It happens. I mean, of course, in mathematics, one can check whether he's wrong or right. So it's not. Sometimes it's easy to go back and. So in mathematics, usually it's, let's say, easy to check. Maybe like if you are doing some of this turbulence model in physics, that's even more problematic because like these are models that people came with. I mean, and there is, I know like in turbulence theory, there are a lot of theory out there, and we still don't know which one is correct. Right?
Thank you. Welcome, Professor Ying. I guess the questions from the audience will have to wait. Sorry. Can you both be available after this for if people have questions? Okay. We still have a little time, and we're going to turn our attention to you. Thank you for coming. Caught your breath, and can you tell us some pre-university experiences that maybe started your path towards nanobiotechnology?
Sure. I was born in Taiwan and I grew up in Singapore. My family moved to the States when I was 15, and I have some really wonderful teachers in high school there, in particular in chemistry. And when I started university in New York City, a professor in chemistry in the second week of my freshman year approached me, asked me whether I was interested in research, and I would say the rest is history, because I started doing research with Professor John Beauvais for 4 years at Cooper Union. And after that, I decided to continue my studies in PhD at Princeton. One thing that is very important is to spark interest with the young people. Sometimes as educators and also as parents, we noted special talents in a person. And these are really the God-given talents. And it's our job to try to make this person reach their full potential. It's something that Professor Beauvais saw in me, that he enriched it. Because I started as an electrical engineer, and then I changed my major to chemical engineering, more in line with my interests. And even now, I would say I straddle between chemical engineering, bioengineering, chemistry, and material science. So I have a very broad perspective of what could be very interesting. And that's one thing that I want to share with you. It's really important that in the students' education at the high school and the junior high school level, that they see how the sciences, the different subjects, chemistry, physics, and of course biology, comes together with mathematics, and how this whole picture then emerge. And they need to understand how the principles work, and they need to have a broad perspective. This is especially important for young students, and I say especially for the women, for the young girls. They need to see the context of what these subjects are in order to be particularly excited and motivated. And one thing I observe in many of our high schools in the kingdom is that these sciences are taught more as a textbook subject with a lot of memorization. And as a result, I would say in particular, people might be able to do very well in biology because it involves a lot of memorization. But when it comes to chemistry, they just don't catch it, okay? And this is really a sad thing, because in the new biotech initiative, I would say people always think, oh, it's about biology, but no, it's actually, a lot of it is about chemistry, okay? How do we make biologics, which involves actually, there are really a lot of chemistry, and how to synthesize it, design it, and then scale it up. Okay, very few talents low in this area, unfortunately. Many students go into biotech and biotechnology, and they don't have a certain quantitative background. They see knowledge as something that is why and not how we're going to do something, how we harness it and make it into an industry. So this part, I would say we are lacking, and the only thing to try to make it better is to make sure that we have much better laboratories at the high school and junior high school level. And this is what you will see in US and Singapore. But we don't have this in many of our high schools, okay? So Mohiba students, when they come to our labs in the King Faisal Hospital, many of them are doing things in the lab for the first time, okay? It is eye-opening for them, but often they go to many other places and they will end up doing research that is, again, looking for information from the internet and not hands-on research. And I think this really does them a disservice, because for them, they are the smartest, etc., and they can just get information like that. It is only when they go into the lab and hold a pipette and realize how much work it is to do research, how many failures are involved, and what is the systematic approach that one have, that they become much more humble and realize that research is really something that involves a lot of creativity and a lot of knowledge, okay? And it's tremendous amount of perseverance. A lot of my research now, I would say, is what people call bio-inspired, but it is really inspired by Allah's creation, right? For example, how do we develop a nanomedicine that will know exactly when to release the insulin that it contains when the blood sugar level is high, right? This is how our healthy pancreas knows what to do, right? So a lot of this information, you know how it works in nature is not enough. You need to figure out how to engineer a solution that will be practical. And these are things that students won't see and do until they go into the lab and until they bring together many different subjects, okay? So we cannot teach the science subjects as distinct subjects and based on textbook. It's too dry for them. If we want to inspire the students, we need to have a major change in education approaches for our students to be successful. Thank you.
Thank you. It has a lot of implications for teachers also. It's a lot of implications for teachers there, teacher preparation. You answered the second question about being broad in your suggestions for how students should be trained. Is there anything you wish you'd known about developing your talent that might have prevented a setback or failure or simple waste of time? And can you share that information with?
Okay, I think a big part of it is to figure out what is it that you like and what is it that really piques your interest. And therefore, the students need to be explored, introduced to such an environment, okay? In Singapore, when I was running the Institute of Bioengineering and Nanotechnology, we have about 150 staff researchers. So each year we were taking students from the school holidays coming to us during the summer or the winter holidays. For at least 4 weeks, they would do research. And they are as young as 15 years old. So for them, they open their eyes because many of them want to go on the scholarship program from Singapore government to go to US or the UK, etc., to do undergraduate and PhD studies. But many of them had no idea what a PhD is about. So it's very important to expose them to an environment where they do research, and then they see the context of how things are being practiced. So for example, at King Faisal Specialist Hospital, they can see how something that we do in the lab can make a big difference in developing new therapeutics and diagnostics to treat a lot of the patients who have rare diseases in this kingdom, but actually they are rare diseases in the world, but unfortunately not so rare in the kingdom. and then they feel really inspired and motivated to do. We need to expose them to this environment, and we also need some of our teachers, especially those who are teaching the gifted students, to do this. In Singapore, there's also a gifted education program. And what we do is we would take students in from ninth grade. They are 15 years old, okay, from gifted education program from my alma mater, like Raffles Girls' School. And we go through this very rigorous training, kind of teach them, okay, this is a topic we want to do. Now, read some papers that we selected for them. Sit down and think about how to design a set of experiments that the student can do. Then learn how to use the equipment and collect the data, analyze it, and then lastly, we will never let them go until they give a presentation of their work at the end of the research internship. So this whole process is at least a 4-week process, and you'll be surprised, especially how the gifted students are able to pick up things and then really learn how to get useful information on it. And then they are, I would say they're hooked on it. They're addicted to it. They will come back for subsequent holidays, again and again, and sometimes doing the same project, sometimes doing different areas. And that's how they realize, okay, this is not the only thing I can do. There are many different topics I can do. And this project has more chemistry, that one has more biology, this one is more engineering with physics. That gives them completely different perspective, and it helps them to choose the appropriate major in high school. In Singapore, they stream them very young, I think a bit too young in a junior college. I personally find it's not a good idea. They need to be able to expose to that, and then they can move on to doing something much greater. Why is this so important? Because every country has a small number of gifted students. And my observation of them is they are very good in certain area, but they are deficient in other area, okay? So sometimes we say have very good EQ, very good IQ, but not very good EQ. And that is really detrimental. The appropriate system need to cater for that. When you group them all together, they actually feed on each other. And they think it's normal not to have appropriate good social skills, right? So when we come to a normal environment, in a research environment, they are forced to see what other people do, because we have students not only from the top junior high school, we also have students from polytechnic, okay? And you will see the attitude towards them is they are very arrogant. And all this can change after they work together, right? And lastly, what we want to do is to figure out a way where their talents can really be applicable. They need to understand that it's not about academics. Of course, academics reflect a lot of things. Some of these gifted students, very easily for them to get a GPA of 5, okay? But what they need to understand is how you present yourself to different audiences, including people who are not as intelligent as they are, in such a way that people can connect with them and appreciate the importance and the significance and the impact of their work. The more they practice that, the more they will be, I would say, much more inclusive in the way they do things, and much more likely that they will make a much broader impact.
Thank you. We only have a couple of minutes, so I want you to be able to answer the last question.
Sure.
What was the major drive that led to your creative work, even in the face of pushback from others?
There are many different things that can be pushed back. For what we do, for example, funding is a major issue, right? When the budget is tight, then you're not able to do many things. You will have to prioritize. And the other part is sometimes you want to do some things and other people might not want to do it because it's too challenging. And this is why it is really critical for us to be in a situation that we make sure when it comes to doing research and things like that, we have access to the best students. In the kingdom, I noticed that many people don't necessarily go on for doing PhD. They started working after a bachelor degree. And then they get comfortable in that position. especially I would say in the government, because government pays them even better than a hospital and much better than in a university. So they become comfortable and they're used to a big salary. It becomes very difficult for them to go back to do studies. It is imperative that we have a system that encourages students who are very talented and have some background in research in the undergraduate level to go on to do research at a much higher level immediately and through a direct path like what we have in the US. This is the only way you can make sure the young people are coached all the way through. Right? I was very fortunate. I skipped a couple of grades in high school and I started university early. I graduated when I was 21 and I did a very fast PhD, about 3.5 years instead of 5.5 on the average. And that makes me a very young professor when I started MIT. And a lot of things are very different when you're young. Because when you're young, you learn to pick yourself up quickly. You learn to work hard and you have lots of energy. And for the young ladies, they have biological clock ticking. They want to get married at some point and have children. And this is getting more and more a problem because many of the really talented Saudi young women that I'm working with, they went through PhD and postdoc, and by the time they come back to us, they are in their mid-30s. They don't want to get married, and they don't want to have children, right? So this is a social problem, and the only way we can fix it is by making sure they go through the process earlier so that they are younger by the time they finish their PhD and postdoc. And we want them to be exposed to many people so that they can see, including choosing a spouse, is actually collecting data points, right? So this is very important. We don't want this high rate of divorce which is coming up, and I see this, it's very unfortunate. I see two people who are gifted. This happens in my labs at MIT. Both gifted, but they fight with each other so much and they have an early divorce. The whole thing must come together if we really want the gifted people to make the broadest impact. We must make sure the playing field works well for them and also for the women. And I appeal again to the people from ministry. I said this to the Ministry of Industry and Mineral Resources before. Not allowing women to take some time off after their children were born. For example, we are supposed to breastfeed the babies for 2 years, right? If we want to follow the hadith. But if they don't have this opportunity to take some time off and then go back to work or work part-time, okay, then many of them kind of give up on the challenging careers. They end up, I would say, going to things that has more flexibility, such as teaching, but not necessarily the career that can make the biggest difference. So many of people who want to go into research or medicine, they don't have a family. They don't have kids, and this is really sad because what that means is they don't pass on their good genes to the next generation. This is absolutely true and important. Okay, so we must make sure how we look after them. So I hope this will resonate with some of the people who are here.
Thank you to our two wonderful scholars. Please join me in applauding their responses. I appreciate it. Thank you. I don't think we have time for, according to the schedule, for audience questions. I know people were itching to ask questions. So, sir. I don't know if we have time because we have another session. Is there an organizer here who can tell me whether we can?
Yeah.
One question.
Yeah,
okay.
one question, very small, for Professor Nader. As a specialist in gifted education, I see the direction going towards big data in mathematics.
Big data.
Big data in mathematics. What is your suggestion if we're going to start it with the children at school level. We have big data, we have access to big data from NASA and other, and internet and everything. What are your suggestions? Is it going to be really challenging for children? Should we start knowing about big data at school levels or not? Thank you.
I'll try to give a very, very rapid answer. I think even yesterday there were a lot of sessions about AI and how AI will change our lives and so on. Definitely there is a lot of mathematics behind this. And we were discussing this even before, like the idea of having like this broader knowledge is what was behind the development of AI, because the development of AI came from, at the beginning, from mathematics. Mathematics, like people were trying to understand how to approximate functions. So you have a function. I mean, we had like the old way of approximating function is by trying to approximate them in a linear way. But then people started thinking, is there a way of approximating function in a nonlinear way, which is more economic in the sense we need less space to approximate the function, and that's how the idea came of let's try to use nonlinear way of approximating function. Then people in computer science pick this idea, because you want to be able to store information in smaller devices. And then the idea of using this, now that's how now the idea of using big data, how now we are able to use big data because we have better way of approximating functions. So, of course, I mean, this is now, we don't know where this is leading us in the future. I think there are limitations on where it will take us. But I mean, I think this is something important for the younger generation that they have to be following what's happening, even like to make decisions, like how you specialize. I mean, clearly some of the skills that human beings were doing in the past will be replaced by a machine, but not all of them. So, and will need some other kind of skills. So, I mean, I mentioned this to many friends, like companies used to hire software engineers, maybe 100 software engineers. Now, companies will hire 5 software engineers, but more talented, to run a computer that will do that work. So we need different kind of talents, but we need also people to be very skillful in what they are doing to analyze this big data.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's have a round of applause again for our speakers.